Hey everybody, it's Adam from IHP, and here we are. I think we're on episode 5 of JC Unplugged in our weekly staff meeting. So we're going to get right into it. First question, Carlos, kind of parlays from you being in Brazil this past weekend. What were some of the topics you guys discussed in Brazil?
Friday we did rehabilitation of the shoulder, lower back, and knee. Saturday we did gorilla strength and fit moves and metabolic training theory. And all of Sunday was practical. So we did, pretty much new subjects for Brazil. Rehab was new, gorilla strength was new. Fit moves they've seen a little bit, but it kind of led into our circuit class certification that they want to do over there. And metabolic is always a hot topic.
Anything new that you haven't, talked about here in the States with regards to the rehab of the shoulder, back and knee? That you came up with?
Yeah, not that you come up with, but when you're preparing a presentation, there's a lot of things that you have to kind of ask yourself and systemize and put in order of sequence or logistics or at least thought process analysis so you can present it to people and deliver it in somewhat of a meaningful topic. But just things that everybody knows, but maybe they don't pay too much attention to, like the kinetic chain. How knee rehab, ankle rehab, and hip rehab, and lower back rehab are essentially the same thing, because an anterior reach, a bridge, a cable deadlift, all of them could be for the ankle, could be for the knee, could be for the hip, and certainly for the back. How isometric training is the essence of rehab, because if you look at it, what is manual stretching? It's really isometric tension, all right, put in a passive mode. When you get to end range, that's isometrics. What's used in PNF? Isometrics, to release a spasm. What is one of the best strength training methods of training when you have ranges of motion that hurt? Isometric. So if it hurts at 90 degrees, you do an isometric here, an isometric there, and the transfer of plus or minus 10 degrees kind of takes care of the area that's hurt. So that's a great way to get really strong if you're not rehabbing, and to bypass a range of motion that's painful. So all those things, when I started preparing, I'm going, wow, this is pretty cool. Wow, this is pretty cool. Wow, this is pretty cool. When you're rehabbing the shoulder, for example, if you're taking a band and you're doing, something like a deceleration mode, where this is knee training, this is hip training, this is lower back training, and this is shoulder rehab. So you can be rehabilitating the shoulder while unloading the knee, hip, and back. Or you can take a healthy shoulder and rehabilitate the knee, hip, and back. How do you want to do it? So all of that was really, really interesting to put together and deliver.
All right, question number 2. I'm just going to kind of paraphrase this a little bit because it's kind of a long question, but what are some of your thoughts, your opinions, maybe other different training ideas about using weighted implements, rackets, bats, and do you think that they can alter the biomechanics of that skill? Can a heavy bat alter the mechanics of swinging? Can a heavy tennis racket alter a serve?
The answer is it can, but it doesn't. What do I mean by that? Nobody practices with a 1 pound or 2 pound or 3 or whatever, 5 pound bat, a 10 pound bat all the time. If that was to happen, if you were to practice with nothing but a 10 pound bat, and then try to swing a 32, 34 ounce bat, I would tell you, yeah, your mechanics would be a little bit off, your timing would be a little bit off. But that never happens. People practice and swing with an altered mechanics with a heavier implement. But then they take the right implement and engram the right engram, the right recording. So strength training, resistance training is the essence of doing heavy stuff with an altered pattern, and we all know that strength training has a great transfer to anything. So you move through altered patterns with heavy stuff to get strong, and everything that involves, from impulsing, from neural coordination and all that stuff. But then you practice with a light racket, you practice in the water, So yeah, does the swim, occur with heavy stuff? Yeah. Does it look like swimming? No. Does it help swimming? Absolutely. See, so yes it can if that's all you did, but that's never all that's done.
This question actually comes from someone outside of the staff. So I got a question from Quentin Dunn, fitness director at Kenwood Country Club. I think at 513 area code, that might be Dayton, Ohio, my old stomping grounds. So he wants to know what are the best exercises per pillar, which you could probably talk forever on that, but what are the best exercises per pillar for older adults who are weaker, don't have a lot of stability, and are struggling getting in and out of a chair, up and down off the ground?
The 8 movements that we use for our assessment, those are the best and foundational progressions for anybody. Remember, when we said, well, if you were going to assess function, which is the 4 pillars, how would you do that? Well, you take 2 exercises per pillar, and you go, okay, if I didn't have any equipment, what would be like the best exercise that I would use, not only to evaluate the pillar, but to strengthen the pillar? And therein lies your training and test, which should be all the same. Because if you get better at the test and you score better, you should be better at the pillar. And not score better at an overhead squat. Oh, now you got a perfect overhead squat, and what were you trying to do? Oh, I'm a volleyball player. Is your volleyball playing getting better? No, but I'm better at it. There should be direct transfer, right? All right, so first pillar is an anterior reach. Well, everybody, we all do the single leg, but it doesn't have to be a single leg. You can have it staggered right here, and that's awesome for the older population, or let's put it this way, for the very deconditioned population, whether it's rehab or old or whatever, okay? Then you have the single leg squat. Not everybody can do a single leg yet, but you know what? Everybody can do a pump. If you can stand on a single leg, you can do a pump. So the pump is awesome for what? Attenuation of weight and gait. Boom. Then squatting. Not everybody can do squatting low. Yeah, but everybody can do that, and that's where it starts. Lunging. Everybody can't lunge. Everybody can do this lunge. If you're standing, you can do that. Okay? So that's like getting off the stepping down a curb or something like that, or going down a decline. A version of the push-up. Elevate it to here. Anybody, if they're standing, they can do a push-up. If they're standing, they can do a recline pull. And if they're standing, they can do core stiffness, rotation, and pivots with rotation. You know? Done. Those are my favorite 8. The system is the system. You're never going to get a different answer out of me. It's never going to be the overhead squat. It's never going to be the sit and reach. I'm never going to lay down and lift up a leg and see if you have 90 degrees of hip flexion. And I'm never going to step over a hurdle. And I'm never going to do any of that. Because that has nothing to do with most functions. So,
Plus, they can find these 8 progressions on IHP University.
On IHP University, in our book, functional training, in all of our things that we've ever published, the essence of series and so on and so forth. So it's all over our brand, wherever we're at, you know, from all the way from IHP University to all of the books that we published.
All right, one last question. What do you feel about daily undulating periodization? In other words, if you're training 3 days a week, 1 day is hypertrophy, 1 day is strength, 1 day is power.
You can do that. I don't. You know, yeah, that's good. That's good. How long are you going to do it for? Okay, so where do you do that in your periodization cycle? Do you do it in your conditioning? Do you do it in your strength? Do you do it in your power? Do you do it in power endurance? Or is that your idea of periodizing so you don't have to periodize? You know, so since we periodize linearly, but we do the hybrids, the hybrid triplexes and quadplexes and biplexes, and one exercise really hits a muscle direct and very hard, and the other exercise unloads another body part. By virtue of that, we can periodize linearly. So in other words, we periodize the traditional exercises in a linear fashion. We spend 1 month in the 8 to 15 range, we spend 1 month in the 4 range, and so on and so forth. And by virtue of the fact that we're unloading, we're already doing undulating. So we're doing lesser intensity, higher volumes, and so on and so forth. So I think that the linear periodization is the easiest way to teach periodization. The hybrid model already incorporates undulating factors in it. But if you're looking at power and power endurance, and you want to do like 6 to 7 or 8 weeks, and not have to worry about periodizing and just rock and roll, then I suppose you can do a total body workout Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and do hypertrophy, strength, and power. The only thing is, you're only going to do like, let's say, 4 or 5 sets for the legs, 4 or 5 sets for the chest, 4 or 5, because you're not going to have enough time. So there you have it. So you're going to be pressed for time, and you're not gonna get a whole lot of volume in if you wanna do it all. And there's some research that says undulating is superior to linear, but again, they don't do linear the way we do linear. So, it's good, one way to do it.
All right, that's it. So we'll see you in a couple of weeks for episode 6. If you guys want to send me some questions like Quentin Dunn, Adam at ihpfit.com. See you in a couple of weeks.